one aspect of learning feels like many people don't see is very simple actually. There is no such thing as the 3D industry. Hello everyone, my name is Nico, I'm a freelance 3D artist, and today I'm gonna answer your questions about Blender, 3D, and everything around that topic. A little disclaimer before, I am no expert in all the things whatsoever. I have also my blind spots. I didn't do everything that you can do in this field. But after many years, I think I gained enough experiences that I want to give something back to the community. And the first question is one that I got a lot. How long have you been 3D modeling, and any tips for getting started? Also, how to effectively learn and get better at Blender? How would you recommend someone new to this field get started effectively? And what key lessons or strategies would you share from your own experience? So the first question was how I became a 3D artist and how long I have been working in that field. So I've been using Blender for around 5 years now. And before that, I was working with Cinema 4D for also roughly 5 years, but on a very basic level. Before that, I used also 3ds Max. But before I used Blender, I was working for over 20 years or so as a graphic designer. I was very familiar already with Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, so editing and animating were already skills that I already acquired in that time. So when I started using Blender, I had a little head start, I would say, because I didn't start from scratch. I didn't start from zero. I had already grasped the concept of 3D and the concept of animating and how to navigate the 3D space. Okay, these are great questions, and I think I can answer them as a one giant question, which is how to learn Blender, how to start, and what would you suggest is the best way to learn Blender. So the first thing that most beginners actually do is obviously watch tutorials, do the donut or follow other tutorials. And this is a good first step, as usual, of course. Beginner tutorials, they introduce you to the interface, to all the tools. But oftentimes I see people just follow one tutorial after the other, mimicking everything that is said and done in the tutorial, and thinking that that equals to learning. But this is actually an illusion, because when you are given a task to do something, you won't see a specific tutorial for that. You have to come up with your own ideas and processes to fulfill that task. And that's why it's super important, I think, to start your own little personal project as soon as possible. After learning the basics, how to model maybe, how the interface works, how to render, I would start very early on your own personal project to apply everything that you learned. And what I would highly recommend is to start doing something that you're passionate about. Something that you love, maybe something from a video game or from TV or movies or from pop culture or anything that you like. Maybe you like doing something in your household and you would like to create something around that. Starting with something that you love is the best motivation that you can have. Because in the end, you will sit hours and hours on something. And when you don't love the thing that you're creating, the motivation will quickly fade and you will start the next project. And the intention to finish it will slowly fade away and you will start the next one and the next one. And in the end, you have 10 projects that you didn't finish at all because you think, oh, you should do that. Oftentimes people start creating cars maybe or start sculpting faces or anything without them actually wanting to do those things, but they think they should because everyone is doing those things. But I would say, no, just create what you want to create. Passion and love for something will really drive you and will give you that motivation to actually put the work and the time into it. And it won't feel like work, it will feel like a hobby and it will be fun. And what I often say is also take something that you have around you, like for example here, like a mouse maybe, and try to recreate it. This way, for example, with a mouse, you can kind of analyze it from all sides. You can analyze the shape, the flow of the objects, the flow of the geometry. You can analyze the structure and the how the light interacts with it. And this way you will have the best reference to create something. You will see exactly what works, what doesn't work, where the differences are, and so you can improve very fast. So I would say do those small projects first, do a lot of them, and with each one you will have the sense of accomplishment and it will feel really good to have something finished in your hand, basically. And with each project, I will try to increase the difficulty and the complexity a little bit more. So do whatever you feel comfortable with, but with a little challenge on top of it. This way you will always introduce this little learning curve towards it. But also with the repetition, you will get more and more comfortable with doing the same task over and over again, but you will still learn with these new challenges. And if you're stuck somewhere, then sure, look it up, watch a tutorial, and then keep going. And what I highly recommend is not trying to learning everything, because you won't be able to learn everything, especially in Blender. There are so many possibilities, so many options, so many tools that it will be very overwhelming in the beginning to decide where to go, and you will think that you need to know everything, but that's not true. I know just maybe a small portion of that tool, but I don't need everything. I just need modeling, texturing, animations, the basic stuff. I barely use things like geometry nodes or simulations or maybe texture painting, because I don't need those tools. I focus on my strengths, and that's more than enough. One thing that I also find very important is to have a certain goal. So in the beginning, you will play around, you will experiment, which is very important, so you understand how all the tools work. But in the end, have a certain goal and work towards it, so that you will leave everything that you don't need behind. And you will only use those tools that help you reach your goal. Because in the end, you don't need to learn everything. One thing that I also hear a lot is that people expect to find tutorials on everything, and that those tutorials will lead them to a better skill level. But in the end, tutorials don't really help you learning. They mostly guide you towards a goal. But one aspect of learning feels like many people actually don't see, which is very important. It's very simple actually, and that is repetition and practice. Many people underestimate that you still, with all the tutorials in the world, you still need to put in the work and time into practicing. And this aspect, unfortunately, you can't skip. You can't skip time, you can't skip experience. So even with the best tutorials that promise you to get a pro in just 20 minutes, unfortunately, it's not that easy. You still need to repeat the same things over and over again. Then they will become second nature. You will build muscle memory, and you will also build your understanding of the software. So that in the end, if that task is needed, you will immediately get to it and it will be second nature. And there was this question about what to learn about the interface, what is really important. So I would say the modeling tools obviously are one of the most important ones. I would also recommend to learning how to select things like vertices, edges, faces. There are so many ways to select things that in the end it will make modeling way easier. So look that up definitely. Learn how to organize your scene also. So using collections is very important, I think. Also, one thing that is very helpful to know is that all the shortcuts work in all the workspaces the same way. So if you duplicate something in the 3D viewport with Shift-D, you can also do the same with keyframes. So you duplicate keyframes with Shift-D, you can duplicate shader nodes with Shift-D. So when you want to do something in one workspace but don't know how to do it, just remember the similar thing from a different workspace and apply the shortcut there and see if it works. And most of the time it will actually work. Okay, so that was a long answer to the first question, but it was an important question, so I hope that already helps you out. And if that's still too much for you and you maybe need some help and some guidance, then maybe today's sponsor Skillshare might be a good solution for you. Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands of classes taught by industry professionals. No matter if you're interested in art, music, photography, finances, or personal development, Skillshare has the right class for you. And what makes Skillshare so unique is that you have curated classes and learning paths that guide you from the beginning until your desired goal. Especially in Blender, you can get lost and be overwhelmed very quickly because there are so many tools and so many possibilities, so it can get very frustrating. For these cases, Skillshare has a ton of great Blender classes from well-known teachers that you might also know, like Derek Elliott, Smeef, or Southern Shorty. These guide you to your desired goal, no matter if it's just a beginner class or maybe some advanced classes that teach you how to create your own short film. I'm also currently learning on Skillshare with the learning path by Sir Wade Neistat, which is Master 3D Animation. And yes, I know animation to a certain degree, but I think my skills are still not on the same level as maybe my visual fidelity, so I definitely want and I think I need to get better at that. And this learning path is a great solution for me because Sir Wade is a former DreamWorks animator, so I mean, come on, learning from the best is obviously a great thing to have. So if you'd like to start learning efficiently, then please click the link in the description below, and the first 500 people that use that link will get 20% off of their first year on Skillshare. And in addition, it comes with a 7-day free trial and a 30-day money-back guarantee. So get started today, and now on with the next question. What are some plugins you recommend from the start? About a year into Blender, so feeling a bit more comfortable finally, but still only using the vanilla Blender right now. Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually saw that many beginners want to use all the add-ons because they all help them out a lot. But I will actually recommend to doing as this person here, and first learning doing it the old-fashioned way with Blender without add-ons, so that you understand the process behind the add-ons. So if an add-on suddenly shouldn't work, or there is a mistake or an error, that you know exactly what to look for and to fix the issue. So yeah, that's a great start already. So my go-to Blender add-ons are the following. So Bool Tools, this is already packed with Blender. It gives you a few more shortcuts to create Boolean objects. So two objects that intersect, and then you can either cut one object from the other, or unite them, or maybe just use the difference as a new object. So this is very helpful, and it speeds up the process immensely. Also Loop Tools, which gives you more options when it comes to editing your mesh, which is really cool. Quick Groups. This is a little bit more advanced, but it is very helpful if you're working with instances. So what this add-on does is you select all your objects that should make up one asset maybe, and then you just press Ctrl G, and it creates an instance of that object, and the original will be moved to a different scene. And this way you will have your new instance object in your main scene, and with just pressing Tab, like for editing for example, it will jump to the new scene where the original object is. You can edit it, and you press Tab again, and you are back in your original scene. So you can have multiple instances, they are all connected, you can scatter them around your scene, but with just pressing Tab, you jump back into editing that object. Drop It. This is a very simple add-on. It basically just, if you have something in your scene and you press, I think V, it drops it to the floor. So for archviz, for example, it's very helpful if you want to place things on tables or on the floor or on counters or whatever. Usually you have to like manually move them to that spot. But with this add-on, you just press one button and it drops them to the nearest surface, and it will perfectly be aligned with the surface. So the next one is Pew Pew. It's a funny name. This is actually by a person I got to know, Jan. And this is basically an add-on for creating lasers, projectiles, anything you can imagine. It's super easy to use. You just have like one gizmo that you point somewhere, and you press one button, and it creates a muzzle flash. It creates a projectile. The default is a laser. Then the laser's flying until it hits an object. It creates a spark simulation, so a hit, and also creates a scorch mark that glows and then slowly fades away. And everything with just one button press. But you can also exchange the projectile for something else. So it doesn't have to be a laser, it can be bullets or anything that you want. To optimize tools. This is a little bit more advanced, but if you have a bigger scene and a more complex scene, this really helps out to identify bottlenecks when it comes to rendering and complexity. So this basically color codes your scene and shows you with the colors what mesh is very dense and compared to all the other meshes. It also has a lot of tools to optimizing the scene. It can help you out with the textures if they are too big. So this is really cool for optimizing your scenes. Camera Shakify. This is a no-brainer, I would say. It's free and it's really, really cool. It's made by Ian Hubert and Nathan Beckdahl. And they are really, really awesome guys. And they basically recorded different camera shakes and added them to this add-on that you can apply to your own camera with just one button. You have multiple presets and you can change the influence, and with just a few clicks you can create very realistic camera shakes because they are actually real camera shakes. So yeah, these are the first add-ons that I think of that are really, really helpful for beginners, but also for more advanced users. What's your favorite food? I usually like, unfortunately, fast food, pizza, burgers. These are usually my favorite foods, unfortunately. How to avoid becoming overwhelmed with various projects and life in general? That's a really good question. So yeah, if you have an answer, please tell me, because I also get overwhelmed. So I'm not immune to that. I have many projects, sometimes in parallel, going on. And this is sometimes tricky, but overall I would say work-life balance. It's just this buzzword, I know, but trying to keep a healthy life besides your working or your hobbies. Having something else as to balance out you sitting in front of the computer is very, very helpful. Good project management, I would say. So having an Excel sheet or a Trello board or whatever you use to organize yourself. So write everything down that you're currently doing, or all your projects, or that you want to do, and set priorities. Say maybe put them on certain days of the week or of the month, and say I will work on it on this day and not on any other day. What I think is also one of the most important things is finding a project that is very fulfilling, that you want to work on. So if you have some projects that you don't like, that you chose by yourself, obviously if it's a client project, then sometimes you need to do it. But if it's personal projects, if something's not fun, then just don't do it. Don't feel maybe pressured into doing it because you read that it's good, or some tutorial told you that this would be good. If it's no fun, then what's the point? So I think choosing the right projects is very important, so that you only do what you like. And when you like it, it's not actually overwhelming to work on those. So for my last short film, at the end, I was working on it for over a month, almost 24/7, but I never felt overwhelmed because it was fun. It was my baby. It was my personal big project, my biggest project, my most complex project. And it was so much fun to work on it. There were many sub-projects. So in the end, it was a lot, but it was still fun. So I think that's the best advice I can give on that topic. How many default cubes deleted? Way too many. And I hope they are somewhere in like default cube heaven, because I'm not proud of it. But yeah, it needs to be done. And for the end, I have one question, which is made out of, I believe, like 10 questions or so. So let's do a lightning round. Tell us about the current market of the 3D industry, and is it good as a career or better learn something else? Yeah, the VFX industry is rather in a bad shape, also video games, but mostly the big companies. So if you want to work in one of those two fields, I would rather suggest trying to look for smaller companies or indie studios. Also, one thing I need to address is there is no such thing as the 3D industry. It's just a buzzword, but there is not just one thing. 3D is everywhere. You can use 3D for product visualizations, for mockups, for animation, for video games, for VFX, for movies, for YouTube videos, for education. There are so many applications for 3D, so there is not just one industry. There are many smaller and bigger industries that each have smaller and bigger companies that each have their own requirements and processes, so they are all different from each other. The one similarity is that they use 3D software, so please keep that in mind. Your process and workflow in making your films. Well, these are huge questions. To answer that, I would highly recommend you watching that video here. This is my talk at the last Blender conference last year. And this video is basically about my process of making my films, especially about making my last short film. So if you want to know that, please watch this video. It will probably answer most of that question. Do you use Blender for post-processing, compositing, or Apple, Adobe, or Blackmagic software? I don't use Blender for post-processing. I mostly try to set up everything as it is in Blender and render it out. But I use DaVinci for post effects, but mostly something like glow, glare, for having lens flares, for applying a certain style to it, so LUTs or color correction. So that's most of the post work that I do. But I don't do any compositing in the end. So everything that I render out from Blender is mostly just one pass. What features do you like in Blender that other applications lack or implement poorly? I would say the consistency of shortcuts and the consistency of the UI, that everything works similarly no matter in what workspace you are. I love that a lot. The open source model, obviously, is a big advantage, so that's great. And also modeling. I used other software for modeling, like Cinema 4D, 3ds Max, SketchUp, but I think Blender's modeling tools are the best so far. What things do you dislike about Blender? Your pain points? Mostly simulation and baking and all that stuff, yeah. What features does Blender lack that you wish the development team would implement? I would probably say small tweaks in terms of UI. So for that, also last year on the Blender conference, Andrew Price, you know, the donut guy, he had a great talk how to improve the Blender UI in terms of like small adjustments that would help a lot to streamline the whole process of using Blender. What features does Blender have that you wish the development team would modify or tweak? they are constantly doing so much. So that's also one thing that I love about Blender, that the team is constantly tweaking the system, and the iterations come very often. You can suggest things, so everything's happening very fast. Some of the things I would wish for, and I heard that they are actually planned, to have all the timelines consistent, or just having one timeline, because currently there are, I think, 3 or 4 versions of the timeline that have different aspects, different features, and to having them all in one timeline would be great. It would be easier to handle. Also, I would love to have like a proper layer system, similar to Cinema 4D, where you can set up certain layers that you can hide and unhide, but also add features to those layers. For example, a certain camera, a certain focal length, so that you have, in the end, certain setups that you can switch between. That would be really cool. And I know Blender has a layer system, but I think it's implemented into the outliner, which is kind of like a combination of layers and groups and collections, which is somehow, it kind of works, but overall I think it's a little bit too much in one system. I would rather have 2 separate systems for that. So one system for just having a list of all your objects and your collections, and one system just for layers. Do you have ideas for new tools in Blender, either as core features or add-ons? I actually have like one idea that I tried out already with like ChatGPT, just to see if it's actually possible. It's working like barely, but I see the potential of it, which is a timeline color coder. For my short films, sometimes you have a longer sequence and you want to divide the timeline into certain color-coded areas, so that you can navigate faster, you know exactly where you are. And I know there are the markers, I used markers before and I use them still, and they are very helpful, but having color-coded areas would be way more intuitive and way faster. So I would love to one day try to get it out properly, and yeah, that would be very cool. But that would be helpful, and but so far, no, everything's fine. Do you prefer Cycles, Eevee, or another rendering engine, and why? I use Cycles mostly because it's a great mix of realism and speed. I think Cycles is very fast compared to other render engines, and the drawbacks that you get aren't very relevant to my work, so I think, yeah, it works great for me. You do animation mainly as experienced animator. Well, I'm not sure about that. Tell us about useful animation-related tricks in Blender. A novice in Blender wouldn't know about unless after a couple years of experience. Well, yeah, I'm not an animation expert. Animation is something that I still am learning and I want to get better at. But what I find very important is to learn rigging before animating, because rigging is the tool that you use most while animating, and knowing how it works is very important to overcome obstacles or problems or errors. And in the end, you can create your own rigs that are specifically tailored to your character or to your machine or whatever asset you're using, so that when you use, for example, things like Rigify and it doesn't work, then you know exactly where to fix it. So that's something that I would highly recommend. Also, for learning how characters move, film yourself doing those movements. I know it sounds silly, but it's very helpful to analyze your movements and analyze what body parts move how and when. For example, I realized how much shoulders actually move in an animation, and before that I just moved the arms without the shoulders. Now I move the shoulders everywhere because they are part of the whole upper body movement. Your honest opinion on Blender's new animation system and Project Animation 2025 of Blender. It's great. So far it seems awesome. I'm not sure where this will help me in my own process so far. I need to try it out more, because so far my workflow doesn't involve the actions too much. But I will definitely try it out and see how much this will help me out. But so far, yeah, it looks good. Wow, okay, so we got through all those questions, but that was actually just a small part of all the questions that I got from you. So look forward to the next video that will come hopefully soon, and I will answer even more questions. And yeah, I hope you like this format. Please let me know if you like it, if you don't like it. Please let me know if I got something wrong. So as I said in the beginning, I'm not an expert on everything. I just talk from my own personal experience. So if I got something wrong, please also tell me in the comments. If you have more questions for more future videos, please also leave them in the comments below the video, and I will make sure that I will answer them if I know the answer to those questions. But besides that, yeah, that was fun. That was a lot, and I hope to do more of those. So far, I have a lot of questions that I can answer in future videos, so I hope you like it so that I can continue doing this. Besides that, if you like this, then please like the video here, please subscribe to my channel, please also consider supporting me on my Patreon, because that's the best way to support the production of my short film series. So if you like this and you would like to see it behind the scenes, you would like to have my assets, you're just curious, or you just want to help me out, then please consider joining. It would really be awesome. But besides that, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, so take care and bye-bye.